Hey, everybody. Welcome to Measure Marketers podcast. In this podcast, we have a very, very special guest, a person who's renowned, a person who's recognized in the performance marketing industry. Most performance marketers love to learn from whatever he speaks on performance marketing and how he scaled multiple brands. And he's also somebody, very, very, popular when people talk about this world of performance marketing. So we have Deepan Siddhu, the director of growth from SaaS Labs, one of the very popular guys. I don't have to, tell you how popular he is because I'm sure that you might have all seen his ads and his content and his, seminars or the different places that he speaks and shares his invaluable insights. So let's welcome Deepan. Thank you so much for agreeing to do our podcast with me, and lovely to host you. Always a pleasure to meet you any day, anytime. The kind of insights you bring to the table, the kind of knowledge you have, trust me, is second to none. Very few people in the country who kind of have the confidence that you carry as to how things should be, put in that right perspective when you talk about performance marketing. Thank you so much. And my the people who follow us and the kind of work that we do truly would love to see the insights that you bring to the table and how the kind of insights that you're going to share today will change their life for good. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Prashant. That was a lovely intro. I'm overwhelmed
Oh, you
with the
deserve it.
kind of
You deserve it 100%.
yeah, with all the support that I've received from the community, people that I've met, people like you. Uh, it's been humbling, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm really excited about the next 30, 45 minutes that we're going to talk about my most favorite topic and yours, I'm guessing too.
Yeah. So, of course, performance marketing is something that is very close to my heart. Whenever I speak about ads, I say Google Ads was always my first love. The very reason I do what I do is because of Google Ads. But for last couple of years or maybe 5 years, I've quit doing marketing stuff completely into the measurement side of it, and that kind of gives me the adrenaline rush that I really fell in love with. And seeing the kind of work that you do, you know very, very amazing, because my job is to talk to performance marketers. I work with a lot of agencies across the country, across the world, right? But seldom people I see with the kind of knowledge that you have. So I'm really in love with the content and the knowledge you have, and that's what excites me every time I talk to you. And talking about the measurement summit, we had an amazing time, and reaching out to you was also on my head. I don't know, would you be there? And but thank you so much for gracing that. A lot of people gave us feedback that it was
Yes,
amazing, and trust me, people loved the way you did that MC. People were in love. And the next measurement summit, trust me, it's going to be much bigger, and you'd have a bigger role to play. We're going to take this thing to every performance marketer in the country, right? So
of course,
without
of
much ado,
course.
let's get into the podcast for today. So, Deepan, I want to begin with this. When people talk about performance marketing, I want to know from your eyes how performance marketing has changed over the years. It changed from, paid marketing. People used to call it PPC, right? People call it paid marketing. Then people called it digital marketing. And slowly people started coining the word performance marketing. I don't know what people might call in the future, but I wanted to hear from your perspective as to how the world of performance marketing has changed over the years.
Performance marketing as a terminology has existed since more than a decade, Prashant. In the past, where people used to pay for performance, pay for a lead, pay for a sale, it was called performance marketing. Back in the day, I'm talking about 2008, 2009, early days of proliferation of internet. In my definition, it was unfairly given that terminology, because when you pay for a lead, pay for a sale, it's affiliate marketing, not performance
Mm.
marketing. And of course, with internet coming in, with more people having access to smartphone and faster internet, more and more people have started consuming content online and eventually started transacting online, right? This led to the proliferation of performance marketing over a period of time. If you ask me, my own definition in terms of how I saw the industry evolve, there was social media marketing. People started publishing stuff on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram wasn't there back in the day. And promoted that to a certain audiences. It was when I go back to 2013, everybody was hungry about likes. You would have seen a lot of people run contests and stuff like that to get more engagement. Engagement used to be this really big metric back in the day. Right? Then this happened, for a long period of time, 2-3 years. The entire industry was going after likes, retweets, trending on Twitter, and stuff like that. Eventually, tougher questions started getting asked in the boardroom. Hey, all of this money is being spent on likes. What is happening to my website? What is happening to my business?
Right.
Then it gave prominence to digital marketing as an umbrella term, right? That included social media, influencer marketing, PPC, SEO, pretty much everything digital in nature. Digital marketing was that mother umbrella, right? But even with digital marketing, what started happening is marketers were predominantly accumulating vanity metric. Now, what I mean by vanity metric is, say, impressions, clicks, website visitors, online reputation, comments, trending on Twitter, every social media engagement metric, and all of that, right? If you look at most of these metrics, it is not bad, but you can't say that it has an impact on the business, right? So when
Correct.
marketers started going towards, website traffic and stuff like that, then people started asking questions. Okay, where is my business, right? That led to the introduction of performance marketing, wherein within the scheme of digital marketing, we started picking up specific channels where you're almost assured of an ROI in return. The ROI doesn't have to be necessarily in terms of dollar. It could be in terms of lead, an inquiry, subscription, a more meaningful action a customer or a consumer can take with the business.
Correct.
If
Correct.
you want to call that as an ROI, that led to this, the terminology of performance marketing. Performance marketing as a terminology getting back, the traction, the right name. If you ask me, my definition is, the performance marketing is showing up in front of the right people at the right time with an objective of acquiring them as a customer, the right customer for the business, right? Not every customer is good. I always keep saying that. Acquiring the right customer for the business by showing up in front of the right person at the right time is performance marketing, right? Even
Correct.
today, Prashant, people call PPC as performance marketing. It's not incorrect, right? Because in a PPC, the form of pay-per-click advertising occupies a good portion of performance marketing, right?
Correct.
But
Correct.
what I mean is, it is not the only channel that is meant for performance marketing. So
Correct.
pretty much every ad channel with a combination of tracking, analytics, the entire loop of things, right from a visitor seeing an ad for the first time all the way till they transact with your business, and then your re-engagement with that customer so that the customer buys more from you, continues to be your customer. This entire scheme of things is how I would like to define as performance marketing and not necessarily only PPC.
Correct. See, a lot of people, when I approached performance marketing, when, people talk about performance marketing, people were so obsessed with campaigns. And I always had this feeling that, campaigns are not performance, results are, right? So by definition, performance marketing is results driven, right? Results driven. And if you do all kind of marketing and you don't show that very outcome that people desire and expect, then that's definitely not performance marketing. There's a little bit of difference between a distraction and an engagement, right? Like you said, people focused on likes and comments and shares. They don't mean nothing unless it adds to the overall business bottom line, right? So you just can't take the engagement and say I'm having a high number of engagement but low conversion rate. Low conversion rate, high engagement is possibly a distraction. People may be
Yeah.
doing something else apart from the very important action that you want people to take when you drive them to the website.
You're absolutely right when you said results. The results that are meaningful for a business, that is performance.
Correct.
Like you mentioned, likes, shares, and stuff like that. It is very difficult to scientifically prove that it has an impact. It's not bad. It's good to have. It acts as a social proof. For example, if there is an ad running, Facebook ad, let's say I'm showing you two different ads, ad A, ad B, very similar ad. The ad A has only 5 likes and ad B has, let's say, 1,000 likes and 200 good comments. As the same user, you're very likely to react to the second ad, even though it is the same thing, but because of the social proof. In that cases, engagement still matters. But let's say, engagement for the sake of it, okay, I've gotten like 15, 20 likes on a post or 1 million views on a reel, it doesn't matter to a business.
Correct. But
Yeah.
what I have observed over the years working only in the world of tracking and measurement, because this has been so close to my heart. Whatever I
Yeah.
do or whatever I'm doing for last 6-7 years, completely into tracking and measurement. Trust me, I've not run one single campaign in these many years. The reason is because I'm so occupied with the kind of work that I'm doing with tracking measurement. And once I started looking at the world of performance marketing from my lens as a tracking and measurement expert, I saw the whole game of performance marketing is something that is driven by the events that you want to optimize for. We talk about performance marketing, but trust me, I don't know where we are missing out as a community, that a lot of people don't even know the fundamentals of tracking, fundamentals of what data to capture. They always depend on somebody else, or they think, hey, tracking and measurement is not part of a performance marketer's game, and it is to do with developers, or it's to do with the business owners. My job is to simply set up campaigns, work on creative and targeting, right? I believe that targeting is only as good as the optimization that you want to optimize for, or the event that you want to optimize for, right? I can't simply set up right targeting and expect Facebook to drive results unless Facebook knows what event I want to be optimizing for, right? That takes me to this bottom line where, that is why when you create an event, Facebook categorize them into standard event and custom event, because custom event is something that you give it a name, but Facebook doesn't know what that action in reality means.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is why when you create custom conversions in Facebook, also what it does is you can give whatever name you want, but they always want you to connect that custom conversion to a standard event, because backend the system wants to really understand the action that is synonymous to the event that you want to optimize for. Now, the reason why I'm speaking about these things is because a lot of people do not even know these things. They simply think campaigns and targeting and ad copy and conversion copy, or landing pages and funnels. How far of an extent do you think whatever I just told you would work, or they're all stitched to be in the right place without understanding the tech on which the ad platforms work? So I want to know from you, how important is tech, and your advice to the budding performance marketers who look up to you, right? Don't even get that opportunity to talk to you directly. I wanted to give them the direction and what they should be focusing on. So my question would be, what the present day performance marketers should have in their arsenal.
If you ask me, tracking measurement is everything as of today, right? Gone are the days, where you could have gotten away by setting up a campaign, let's say open targeting or some custom targeting and stuff like that, uploaded a few creatives and waited for magic to happen, right? These are the performance marketers whose job is going to be at risk, right? I'm not trying to scare or anything. The advertising platforms are getting so intelligent. You don't even have to specify targeting. You don't have to create ad copies. To an extent, you don't even have to create visuals. To an extent,
True.
you don't even have to create landing pages anymore, right? So
Correct.
if the system is giving that flexibility to pretty much every marketer who's going to touch the dashboard, not even marketer, even if a doctor is setting up a campaign, who's generally considered to be non-tech savvy audiences, they can run a very similar campaign as that of you. So the only difference where you as a performance marketer is going to play in terms of what are the conversion events you are going to track, and how you are going to feed that back into the system. How are
Correct.
you going to train the system to optimize that system, to deliver the results the way you want it? Like, going back to what you said, right? Custom events and standard events, right? If I've audited like hundreds of ad accounts in my life, Prashant,
Mm-hmm.
99% of the ad accounts would have their measurement wrong, right? They would optimize for some top of the funnel event, like a native lead gen form fill, right? Or just a form fill on the landing page, right? Is that really meaningful for a business, right? Many people wouldn't even have thought about, custom conversion events. Nobody tracks them. For example, people run these remarketing campaigns, right? Running remarketing campaigns for all visitors is a waste of money, right? If you retarget only engaged visitors, people who spend at least 30, 45 seconds, that particular audience segmented targeted campaign is going to perform much better than somebody who just spent a couple of seconds,
Correct.
right? So if you ask me that question, going back to what you said, if as of today, it may not have been as important 3, 4 years ago, you could have gotten away with just running ads saying that, I'm a Facebook ad specialist, Google ad specialist, or a performance marketer for that matter. You need to have hands dirty in tech. And in tech doesn't mean coding. There are a lot of, what we call as vibe coding existing today, right? With
Mm-hmm.
natural language, you can actually create code. So that's not an excuse anymore for a marketer to not understand technology. When it comes to Arsenal, I mean, of course, I would start with the basic tracking in place, Google Tag Manager or any other tag management platform, number one, followed by a good analytics platform. I'm not going to talk about the advertising platforms because
Mm-hmm.
all of you are aware, Facebook exists, Google Ads exist, Twitter ads exist, and all of that. So let us talk about the other side of things, things that marketers need to have. So tag management, good analytics platform. If you have a product that requires the marketer to optimize for in-app actions, let's say if you have a product that has a free trial like Netflix, or a B2B CRM software or anything like that, then you would want to track what is happening within the product. In that case, you would need slightly more sophisticated analytics platforms like product analytics platform like Mixpanel or Amplitude. Then, of course, visitor recording heat maps becomes really key. In order to do that, you could look at a Clarity or Smart Look or Hotjar. I use Smart Look because it gives me the flexibility to look at both what is happening on the web and what is happening in app.
Correct.
Clarity is great. Clarity is a free tool, and it's from Microsoft. It's relatively stable for a free tool.
Clarity launched amazing updates. It was there for a couple of years, but the kind of updates they've brought in the last 6 months, truly amazing. But
Yeah,
direct
especially
native,
AI.
yeah, they have a direct native integration into Shopify. You can have the entire checkout abandonment funnel. You can track those events. You can see the entire session recording of those people who actually end up, abandoning the cart. And the kind of feature it allows us to segment and filter to exactly pinpoint and only find out or see the recording of that particular user who added a particular coupon. Or maybe let's say you have the option to only look at the session recording of a person whose transaction ID was, let's say, 1234, right? It gives you a lot of options. And I would always, when I work with big clients who have a big, tracking and measurement budget, because fundamentally they feel that the campaigns are only good as the foundation, the right signals and the first party data. So they invest money into tracking and measurement. They do a complete audit, make sure the data is being sent properly, and the data is not inflated, not duplicated, so much of stuff, right? But when you have analytics, it kind of gives you information about what people are doing, but it can never tell you why people are doing what they're doing, or
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Why
Yeah.
are they doing what they're doing in the first place? Hey, I know people are clicking on add to cart button. Hey, I know people are scrolling down to this. But what makes people do that? You don't know that. Unless you have something like a Microsoft Clarity or Smart Look or Hotjar or Crazy Egg on top of the existing analytics stack. When you combine both of them, it kind of gives you that entire view, right from the time people came to the site till the time they end up completing or abandoning. You see the entire session, and kind of gives you some great advantage of how you can really tweak. Now, coming to this, right, I was working with one client, like, since you spoke about remarketing, right? A person who spends certain time on a website, if you were to retarget to those people, and those audience will obviously perform better or than people who might have heard or simply came to your website and left. A lot of people, what they do is, if they have an e-commerce site, they create audiences as specific as this. They want to have audiences of people who added to cart a particular product category only, so that they can remarket only that line of category of products. Or they can create a remarketing audiences of only those people who added a specific value of products, let's say $1,000 as add to cart. So because I wanted to make sure that my remarketing audience is high value, and once you have these kind of audiences, then you can leverage the lookalike audience feature of Facebook to give this audience as a source, and then tell Facebook, I'm giving you an audience which is very, very important to me, high value, and I want you to study the characteristics and the traits of those people and find more people like that. And this kind of really gives that incremental conversion lift or the incremental revenue. I'm not saying conversion rate increase, but I'm saying whatever you're bound to get, you always put something extra. But what if you were to get beyond your expectations? And that kind of happens if you have this entire data thing. And rightly said, 7 out of 10 issues in performance marketing only arise because of one topic or one thing: inaccurate conversion tracking. Now, I want to ask from you, when you set up a campaign, what are the steps that you want performance marketers to follow even before they hit on that button that makes ads go live?
Okay. One is, I'll talk about the stack in this particular way, right? Where there is how you collect the data, store the data, and how you report it, and how do you visualize the data, right? This entire scheme of things has multiple tools that come into play. For example, in order to collect, you would need a tag management like Google Tag Manager. To store, you need an analytics platform. To report, right? Analytics itself, can report, but then you could use a tool like Looker to do that, right? And if you want to further amplify that data, if you want to connect, let's say, data from different places, bringing together in one place and making sense of that data, then you need a platform like a BI tool like Tableau, right? I would want to ensure that this is working first, before I spend that first dollar, right?
Correct.
Am I tracking the events accurately? Am I double counting it? Are there pages that I should not be tracking? Are there pages that mandatorily need to be tracked? Which are the pages where I need to set up standard events? Which are the pages where I need to track custom events, right? And is it reflecting properly in my analytics platform and my visualization platform? Run at least 10 to 15 different tests manually from different geography, from different devices to ensure that the session, the user is being captured accurately. The action that you're performing, be it a meaningful action like add to cart, subscribing for a newsletter, or making a payment, making a purchase, starting a free trial, becoming a customer, right? All of this is key events for a business. And like you mentioned, Prashant, at every stage, you can store this audience, you can retarget them, you can create a lookalike of them, telling Facebook or Google, hey, this audience, who's reached almost a add to cart, added product value worth 500 is the most valuable audiences for me. Can you find more of them? Right? So I would ensure that the entire measurement stack is working in perfect order, and it's not easy. Right? Even for a matured business like us, it took us almost 2 to 3 years to get to where we are as of today. Right? Most of the times, we've operated blind, gut call, instincts. We took a lot of calls based on instinct, and it's not good. Right? If I had the data infrastructure, the measurement infrastructure that I have today, about 2, 3 years ago, maybe we would have gone 2x as a company from where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
It is that important, for especially for you to make the right scaling decisions. I mean, like you mentioned, it is what it is. It may not have an extraordinary conversion uplift or something. But when the data is reported in the right way on your interface, it gives you the confidence to take the right scaling decisions. Is this the campaign that deserves my budget? Is this the geography that deserves my budget? Is this where I need to scale down, scale up? And that can only happen when you have the right data in place, and that comes as an output of a good measurement stack.
Right. But what you said is 100% right. But
Yeah.
what happens with, performance marketers is they are only confined to the world of campaigns and nothing beyond that. The very
Yeah.
reason I think this happens is because people get into performance marketing or digital marketing per se is because there is no programming, right? I've spoken to hundreds of performance marketers. Trust me, Deepan, 100 of them got into performance marketing or digital marketing because there is no programming. So, and because it is like this, they might get a job, they might work with a company for 5 years, but when they reach that point where they want to really scale in their careers and all, they find it really difficult because now somebody would tell them, hey, you have first party data, right signals, you need to learn a bit of tech stack, which means you need to understand what events you're optimizing for, you have to have a right data collection strategy in place, you need to have the engagement, whatever users are doing, you should have something in place that kind of gives you the report as to what people are doing on my site and how many of those people end up doing what you want them to do, right? Like in marketing, we have an acquisition strategy, an engagement strategy, and a conversion strategy. You just cannot show ads to people and expect those people to come and hit your website and buy. That's never going to happen. So top of the funnel, you always want to run that campaign that bring people, so that kind of creates that curiosity, interest in those people, and the engagement campaigns that tries to go after them, gives them a nice review about the product and how it will change their life. And then you hit them with right offer, right message that kind of drives people into the rabbit hole, right? But to be able to do all these things, right, people have to really level up their existing game. They have to really go behind that peripheral platform and then go into the platform and the technology on which these ad platforms work. But problem is many of them have little to no knowledge of this thing called tech. And how do you want these people, right? Let's say if somebody is there already 3 years experienced and he's looking up to you, right? Hey, I want to be, I want to travel that road, Deepan, that you have traveled. So what suggestions would you give me? Like, let's say 3 suggestions, right? What would that be so that they can really, amplify their existing, knowledge and skills and get to a level that you've shown them that a performance marketing can really grow?
Yeah, that's a great question and a loaded question as well, right? Uh, I do know performance marketers, usually stay away the moment, where it involves a piece of code, right? And that comes as simple as, collecting your data from a landing page, right?
Correct, correct.
If you're not collecting the right data and if you're not setting the right conversion action and feeding that signal back to the campaign, it's as good as a useless campaign. Like I mentioned, I'm not trying to scare the performance marketers out there. As we speak today, if you are that one who's shying away because, hey, I don't want to touch code, you don't have to code. These are not complex codes, right? These are very simple JavaScripts, and you have the best of the AI applications,
It,
LLMs. that are at
Right.
your disposal. You put the code and it is going to tell you what this code is meant for.
Correct.
If there is an error in that code, it's going to tell you how to debug that. And, all you have to do, and there are different integrations that you can use, where you don't even have to touch the code. You can just integrate two applications, via no code way. For example, Shopify has a, CAPI integration, right? Most of the website offers, HubSpot integration. Most of the tools offers HubSpot integration. It's quite easy, as simple as, turning on toggle on and off, and, your two tools are talking to each other. It is not even code, right?
Correct.
And I mean, take me as an example, right? I still shy away from, getting into extreme complexity when it comes to marketing tracking. And that's when I lean on to experts like you, right? There's no shame in admitting that there is a limit to which a marketer can go in terms of complexity of code and stuff like that. There are times where I lean on to my engineering team, but only if you're in a position to be able to explain to that person on the other
Correct.
side what
Correct.
exactly you want to achieve,
Correct.
right? And as we speak today, you cannot be that marketer who is shying away from that code anymore, the piece of JavaScript anymore. You really, really, really need it's a need. It's not a want anymore. You need to be an expert at it because, like I told you, running an ad, creating an ad copy is not a skill set anymore. It's commodity, right? And to an extent, tracking for it to be automated by AI, we're at least a few years away from that. Okay. So at least, this is going to be a leverage for marketer in terms of, okay, how do I collect, report, and feed the right data back to my ad engine so that I can continue optimizing or rather tell the ad engines, what exactly is meaningful for me, and not everything that you're giving me is meaningful.
Correct. See, basically, there's the confusion is people think tracking is about, you wanted to collect the data and then analyze, who's going to take that burden. But, tracking is simply put like this, tracking allows me to talk to the ad platform, right? Explain to it what I want. Explain to it when it's driving me results. I want to tell the ad platform, hey, you've done a good job, right? I want you to find more of it. See, from Facebook perspective also, it's a win-win for it when as a business I thrive because the more revenue I make out of Facebook, I am prompted to put more money into Facebook because it is working for me. So for Facebook, it's very important from their side also. They cannot simply say, hey, you put money, I'm going to show ad to random people and you waste your money, which means you're not going to come back to my platform again. For Facebook to increase their revenues also, it is important they deliver results for us. But that can only happen if you provide them with the data. When you say it's a platform or basically it's a program. When you say it's a program, you supply data to it. It takes the data, processes the data, and uses that very data that you supply to improve the performance so that you will have better results, right? So it's as simple as that. But yeah, because people find techie, to be something that is not their stuff, and they think, hey, my job is only campaigns. They kind of fall.
Not anymore. Not
Not
anymore.
not anymore.
Because you, me, Prashant, we care about the community, right? We do not necessarily come from that FOMO, right? We have nothing to gain from this.
Correct.
But
Correct.
as we speak today, with a lot of changes happening around us, performance marketers, if you think that you're getting into this profession because you don't have to think about code, don't have to get into tech, then you're wrong. It's not like you will lose your job or anything like that. You'll be falling behind. Do you want to be in the top 1%, top 5% of the marketers, who is getting paid a premium, or do you want to be at the bottom pile, who will just say, hey, I can just run an ad campaign, I can't do anything else.
Correct. Now these days, business owners have also become very adept. Right? They are learning because it's no more that complex thing, or they'll have to invest so much of time to understand the campaign setup and strategy. I've worked with a lot of
Yeah.
D2C founders who set up their campaigns, and they give suggestions to the employees, the performance marketers, because a lot of times they also have that skill. So you just cannot be at the skill of this the owner who just learned Facebook campaigns and you're a performance marketer for many years and you do the same stuff. So it's
Yeah.
time that really people have to look beyond. Trust me, Deepan, 99% of performance marketers even today don't know what is a browser.
What is saying?
And 100% of their time they do when they say I'm doing my work, which is performance marketing, they do it through the browser.
What is saying? They don't know what is a browser?
They don't even know what is a browser. They know, yeah, I have to go to a website, so I use Chrome or Firefox. But I don't know how the browser works. They have no
Okay.
understanding about what's a HTTP request or HTTP response. If they don't understand browser, which means forget about knowing cookies, because cookies are a thing of the browser. So yeah, and I'm happy, that people are talking about it. People like you, who's heavily followed by the community, talking about these things, and it kind of tells them, hey, it is not something that you'd have to leave it on the table for another day. You have to do it today. If you want to grow and make a successful career and get to that top 1% of the club of performance marketers, you have to have solid knowledge of the campaigns and
Yeah.
set up the entire infrastructure, and also understanding the technology that goes behind it,
And the
right?
data.
Right. And yeah, now my next question is, if people want to be learning these tools, right? Let's say Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics, or let's say Facebook Pixel or Conversions API and server side tagging, right? You know, how should they approach it, right? Do you have any suggestions for them, or you have any, anything that you want to tell them, that hey, you start spending time, at least take 30 minutes of your time, and you start upskilling yourself about these important topics, because by the time 2025 finishes, every campaign that you run, you cannot hit the go button without actually having the solid data pipeline in place that collects all the data about the campaigns and the user activity, right? So you
Got it.
want to give them any suggestion? the
Of
reason i
course.
the reason why I want to ask you this is because people look up to you, right? You are the guy, everywhere when people talk about performance marketing. See, I am telling you, the moment people told me performance marketing, it was you, because everywhere I saw people speak so voraciously, so confidently, and I tell you, this word confidently is because performance marketers are always stressed, because they always
There are
have to show
reasons.
value to every penny they invest into campaigns. They're always stressed. They do something, something works, and you tell them to repeat the same process, they're unsure, right? It's like living by that sword next to their head, right? So, how would you want to,
Yes.
because the,
Yeah.
the the reason why we're doing this is not that we'll get benefited off of it, but truly we wanted to come back as somebody who's, done some work, some recognizable work that can really, drive people into making their careers better and excel.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is the
See,
whole.
this advice is, it has always existed. Somebody I would have met 2014, 15, the same advice I gave them back in the day, the same advice I'm going to give them today. Build a website yourself. Okay, that's number one thing. It's not complex. It's so easy to build a website yourself on WordPress. Basic website. You can actually take out an e-commerce template and build an e-commerce website, or you can build a basic information website with a few forms, right? On GoDaddy, GoDaddy gives you a website builder,
Mhm.
which you can deploy on WordPress. Very easy to build. Step-by-step instructions, if you follow, you'll be able to do it. As you finish building a website, I want you to implement your Google Tag Manager, and watch a couple of videos on YouTube. It's very simple. How to implement my GTM Google Tag Manager on WordPress. And there are tons of videos, people like Prashanth, people like Measure Score. There are quite a few of them, right? Who will give you very detailed step-by-step walkthrough in terms of how do you go about copying, pasting that code on a specific area. So you can start using Google Tag Manager, followed by Google Analytics and Clarity. Just start with these three.
Hmm, hmm.
Okay. Google Tag Manager, Google Analytics, Clarity. Okay. Between these three, implement it on your own website. Give your website to a bunch of friends and spread it in different WhatsApp groups. Give it to your family. Ask them to visit that website, right? So that you can start collecting some data and you're measuring the right thing, right? One more thing that people do, Prashant, of course, I will endorse Prashant, my dear friend. When it comes to India, I don't think there is anyone better than Prashant. Not because, he has me on my podcast. Whenever I have any doubt, or when I ask anybody for that matter. In fact, Prashant, the first time somebody told you about me was my junior, Vishnu, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and he holds you in high regards. And, whenever he talks about you, his eyes light up. Okay. There's no one better than Prashant, who can talk about tracking. So look at Prashant. There are a bunch of other people, globally. I'm not sure as much in India. Nobody talks tracking as much as you, Prashant. Globally, there are a lot of people that you can look up to. But more than any of that, right? People think that you have to spend a lot of money, follow Simo Hawa and all of that, right? You don't have to. Google Tag Manager has a help section. Google Analytics has a help section. Facebook Ads has a help section. How many times have any of us visited these help sections to see what kind of instructions that they are giving?
Correct, correct.
Everything that you need to know about Google Tag Manager is in Google Tag Manager itself. All you have to search for is Google Tag Manager help documents in easy, simple English, non-coder like me, and I can understand, what Google Tag Manager is telling me. Start with that, and then you can look at Google YouTube videos. Go to YouTube. Don't go anywhere else. If you want actionable step by step, go to YouTube. Look at Prashanth's videos. Look at Measure School. Uh, that will give you a step-by-step walkthrough of how to implement it. This is the basic advice, and this also can act as your portfolio. This will give you enough confidence. What happens is, Prashant, most of us, we end up watching video and we think it is easy, and then we forget about it. If you do not implement it, you will forget it, right? So build your website, implement this tool, collect some data, go look at the interfaces, play around with the menu, look at the help guides of these own tools, right? On top of it, if you still have doubts, you come to YouTube channel, look at Prashant, look at Measure School. There are step-by-step walkthrough of how to implement these and how to measure data in each of these platforms. What is not there, Prashant, it is how to make sense of data. That can be really complicated. I think that is still a huge gap. Nobody talks about it enough, but that is one area where you will find it difficult, to make sense of data from a business perspective. That's not easily available online. But the rest of everything that Prashant and we are talking about, it's all available online for free.
Right. Now, the beauty of this part, once the data collection is in place, let's say we're using Google Tag Manager, like you said, no, that simple Google Analytics tracking code you put on the site, it collects so much of data that you can go back a month later or a week later and see. You can see a wealth of data which tells you who's coming, how many people are coming, what are they doing, where they landed, where they exited, right? It gives you a bunch of data all because of that simple tracking code, right? If you can start with this, then you can slowly build. And you know what? Google introduced a native integration to BigQuery, and it opens a world of opportunities, right? Any complex tracking problem, or let's say marketing problem, you can get to the very, very root of it if only you have access to this raw data. And that's how the whole world of BigQuery is changing the game for performance marketers to make critical business decisions. And these are something that you don't have to really worry. They are already available. Guides are there. In fact, because we are talking to these performance marketers, somebody told me that changed my life. He told me, Prashant, no matter how skilled you are, no matter how good you become with whatever you're doing, always have one open, course or open, tuition that you are enrolled into, which means, I'm busy, or I may be a CEO, I'm working 18 hours, but always have one open course that tells you it's open, I have to go finish it. It's open, I have to go finish it. Because no matter how much you learn, right? Or let me put it this way, the wisdom or the knowledge of yesterday is not as relevant today, right? So the world is changing
right.
at that pace.
It is.
So unless you take it to your heart and say, Prashant, I am a performance marketer, I work for a company, yeah, I do everything good, but still I want to take that 15-20 minutes of time on myself to understand, to change and plan for what my next couple of years going to be, right? This changed my life. And that's why I always make sure that I know where I'm weak at or where I have to improve. I make a very informed choice, right? I spend time, I buy books, and I watch videos and podcasts. The reason I do that is because I always want to be in the know. And if performance marketers can really have this kind of mindset, it will really change the game for them in just 6 months, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm happy also, if you are telling me that we are doing a work in tracking measurement is recognized, truly it really gives me that
It
happiness.
is. And I will endorse it again. I'm not saying it because
The
I'm on
reason,
this podcast,
thank you so
but
much.
it is brilliant work. The more I hear, the moment I bring up measurement as a topic, Prashant is a name that always comes up. And
It gives
what
me
you do for the community, that matters to me. I mean, the reason we connected, it's
correct.
always about, how do you, it's okay. I mean, we've gotten so much from the community. How do you give back to the community? You're
That's right.
one of those people who always look at giving back to the community, Prashant.
Right. So nice of you. And I always had this also that, hey, I'm doing the behind the scenes work, right? The campaigns and that glory stuff is not mine. And when people like you, appreciate the kind of work we're doing, it really, gives that confidence and the happiness, right? Because we bunch of people are that lost crowd because we're always behind the curtains. We're not that protagonist that who's always there doing the action, right? But yeah, but I'm happy that the community now has become more active, right? You see the measurement summit in December. We met again in the first party data for performance marketer summit, the 1PD summit in Gurgaon,
Yeah,
right? The kind of curiosity, the kind of interest that people had, right? Because they knew things are changing, there is a shift that's coming, and if you don't understand and be the first people to get on to that train, you will miss the bus, right? So
absolutely. And I'm happy India is changing, I wouldn't have thought about, for example, Measure Summit has had about a 200 odd people in
we
Hyderabad.
had, we had
And one
270 plus people,
Yeah,
and
and one PD Summit had like 350.
yeah,
The moment you talk about data, I mean, especially in the context of marketing, I didn't know that as many people would be interested. The kind of questions that people were asking, the kind of challenges that we are trying to solve. I do know that, I know we've been creating a lot of FOMO since the beginning of this podcast. India is changing, and we are going to be on top of this thing. When push comes to shove, we'll be on top of this thing.
very nice. And you know what? We
Yeah,
have this Measure Camp coming to India. Measure Camp is going to have one summit in India, and
yeah,
we'll all be there. We'll all be there. And Measure Camp is a huge thing. If you go to Europe, any city of Europe, you have a Measure Camp: Helsinki, Measure Camp Sydney, Measure Camp, Hague, Measure Camp, Germany, Measure Camp, Frankfurt. A ton of them, and never in India, people proposed to have a measure camp. I've done that with a few of my other measurement marketing colleagues, and we're planning to do one in November. It's going to be very, very good. We'll all meet again. And of course, Measurement Summit is going to happen again in 2025. It's going to be much bigger, and we're going to have no less than 500 people to 1,000 people this time. And thank you so much. And always a pleasure to meet you. The kind of insights, no matter how much of back end work we do, it still puts us on our feet to know that the kind of work you're doing, the kind of knowledge that you bring onto the table, the kind of questions that you ask, right? It's really, really amazing. And I'm a big fan of your work, big fan of what you do. And yeah, that's exactly why I wanted to bring you to this podcast so people at large should know, how to shape their careers, how to, not be in that place and, become complacent, right? But take this as something very serious, as a something that's alarming, and have to get onto that train that tries to take them from where they are to where they should be, because of huge developments in AI and the technology. And I'm so excited to see what the platforms are going to offer. And you know what? We've been using Facebook Pixel, right? Meta Pixel, right? Meta Pixel is going to be deprecated. They are bringing something called as a signals gateway pixel, which is completely first party. If you put Facebook Pixel on the side, it loads from facebook.com, which means people
yeah.
come to my site, abc.com or Measure Marketer. The pixel loads from facebook.com, which in the browser's context is still third party. But Signals Gateway is completely first party oriented, which means the very Signal Gateway code that Facebook gives us is connected to my domain. So people come to my website, Measure Marketer. The pixel, the Signals Gateway pixel, will load from my server, which means no browsers can block it because it's completely loading in first party. And Facebook is going to change this whole dynamics. And I'm so excited of what is in the future, maybe in coming 6 months. And I told you about a product that we've launched. We launched a product called Signally.io, that people who are doing Facebook ads, if they have to implement Signals Gateway, they can simply come to Signally.io. Bunch of clicks, they'll get the code, which is completely first party, and there you go. You start tracking all the data in first party context and send the data directly to Facebook servers. Not just directly from website, you can send the data from Google Sheets. You can send the data from CRM directly to Facebook just through this platform. So we're doing some amazing stuff, and I will keep you apprised of all of it. And yeah, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to
Thank
know.
you. Thank you so much. Always
Real
a pleasure,
honor,
Prashant.
real honor to call you my brother. Trust me. It's a dream. Come true. To be associated so close to you, and keeping us in that regard.
Always a pleasure, Prashant. The feeling is mutual. And thanks for having me on the show. And good luck. Looking forward to speak to you and the community soon.
Yes, we will meet in person again for the next episode.
Yeah,
We'll plan sometime very soon. And
absolutely.
thank you so much. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. See you.
Bye.